All right, so we have made it to a new era of A's baseball, the swingin' A's era, the early 1970s, where the A's won 3 championships in a row. And starting with 1972, their first title in Oakland, their first title in 42 seasons. So they had to overcome a pretty big drought. The hat I'm wearing right now is actually a 1972 World Series cap. So just to let you guys know. And yeah, this was a really good World Series, 1972. You have the A's and the Reds. Obviously, we all know the Reds were a very good team back then. They had, the Big Red Machine. They were just, Pete Rose, Joe Morgan, Johnny Bench. They were a powerhouse. But the A's beat them in 7 games. So, very exciting series, and got Oakland their first championship in this new city, where they were there for 4 years at this point because they moved in 1968. So yeah, the MVP of the 1972 World Series was Gene Tennis. And the A's, were powered by very good pitching, very good hitting. I mean, this A's team, through the 70s was just very, very strong in all aspects. So yeah, game 1 at Riverfront Stadium in 1972 in Cincinnati. The Gene Tennis, who I mentioned won MVP, he had a home run in this game. Yeah, he was a really good player in this series for Oakland. Bert Campaneris was also a great player. And yeah, in game 1, the A's had Ken Holtzman, who was a pretty good pitcher back then, and that Vida Blue got the save, and Raleigh Fingers was came in for relief as well. So that just goes to show how good the A's pitching tandem was. For the Reds, they had Gary Nolan, and in this game, it was pretty close. The final score was 3-2, and interesting because most of the scoring came at the beginning. Oakland opened the game up with 2 runs in the second. Cincinnati, fought back a little bit, got a run in the second inning as well in the home half, and then tied it up in the 4th. But Oakland got the game-winning run in the 5th, and then from there on, it was a pitching battle. I mean, you have Vida Blue, Raleigh Fingers, not going to give up too many runs with that type of pitching staff. Yeah, Bert Campaneris had 2 hits in this game. Not too many hits in this game total for the A's. They had 4 hits, and only, those hits only came from 2 different players. It was Campaneris and Gene Tennis. So yeah, that's game 1. Now game 2 is also a 1-run game. 2-1 in favor of the A's. They win game 2 to take a 2-0 lead in the series. And an interesting thing about this series, which you'll see, is the first 5 games were decided by 1 run. So that's just how close it was. That's how interesting. And actually, game 7. So 6 of the 7 games in the series were 1-run games. So 2-1 was the final score of game 2. A game where the A's started out the game really well. They had 2 really quick runs in the 2nd and 3rd inning. Catfish Hunter on the mound, obviously a Hall of Fame pitcher. Raleigh Fingers got the save in this game, which was really good for the A's. And yeah, Cincinnati scored 1 in the 9th, but they couldn't overcome that. Joe Rudy, who was also a really good player for the A's, got a home run in this game. And yeah, also some good defense by Campaneris. And yeah, pretty strong one for the A's. Joe Rudy with the hit, 2 hits. Bert Campaneris, Matty Alou, and yeah, pretty good one for the A's, winning that game 2. And yeah, the Reds were great, but they just couldn't overcome the good Oakland pitching. Pete Rose got a hit in this game, and the only RBI came from Hal McRae. But yeah, the A's took game 2, and at this point, commanding lead. But the series would get more interesting as we go on. Game 3 gets decided by 1 run, 1-0 final score. Cincinnati wins in Oakland at the Coliseum. 1-0 final. And oh yeah, the records of these teams in the regular season pretty equal. 95 wins for the Reds, 93 for the A's. Yeah, both really good teams. As we all know, it's pretty obvious. The only run in this game was in the 7th inning for Cincinnati. They yeah, it was a RBI from Cesar Geronimo. And Blue Moon Odom was on the mound for the A's. He's obviously a great pitcher, as we all know. He was a losing pitcher though. And yeah, this was a pretty slow game in terms of like scoring. I mean, it's 1-0. Yeah, I mean, nothing much to talk about. It was 4 hits for the Reds, 3 for the A's, and the Reds got the win. In game 4, the A's took a 3-1 lead in the series, so they're in the driver's seat of it with a 3-2, 1 score, one run difference victory over the Reds at home. In actually a game despite not many runs, a lot of hits. The A's had 10 hits, 7 for the Reds. Raleigh Fingers on the mound for the A's. He was really good in this series. Clay Carroll got the loss for the Reds. Yeah, the A's, did pretty good in this game. They contained Pete Rose, as we all know. He was just an electrifying hitter, and they shut him down. Didn't get any hits. The A's had, pretty good RBI opportunities from Gene Tennis, who obviously went on to be MVP, and good hits from Joe Rudy and Sal Bando. Gene Tennis got a home run again, so, he was very much a power hitter, good hitter in this series, good pitching as well. Next game, Game 5, decided by 1 run. Cincinnati wins 5-4 in Oakland in Game 5, so they stay alive in this series. Good game as well, because the A's, could have won this game. I mean, they were up 3-1 midway through, but the Reds kept scoring 1 run per inning a lot, and they eventually won with a 9th inning rally and 8th inning rally, actually, to win 5-4. The losing pitcher was Raleigh Fingers. I mean, they gave him another shot. He pitched a lot in this series. Ross Grimsley got the win and forced the Reds. And Pete Rose was great in this game. He had 3 hits and 2 RBIs. Bobby Tolan also got 2 RBIs in this game. And Pete Rose homered off Catfish Hunter. That just goes to show how good he was. And that really powered them over the top. A's hitting was pretty good in this game, but not as good as it could have been. And I mean, they lost this game. And the next game they would lose. This is the only game that wasn't decided by 1 run. It was 8-1 in favor of the Cincinnati Reds, and they won at home in a really good game for them. The game was pretty slow starting off. I mean, it was like 3-1 in the 6th inning, but then the Reds had a crazy 7th inning where they scored 5 runs. They had 10 total hits in the game, and they won this one 8-1. It wasn't really close when it was all said and done. For the Reds, they had good game from Bobby Tolan and Johnny Bench, obviously some Hall of Famers. Joe Morgan also had a really good game with a double. The A's just couldn't get it done. Vida Blue was pitching in this game. Obviously, we all know Vida Blue is a great pitcher, but he lost the game for the A's in this one. But they still had a good game from Sal Bando and some other players like Gene Tennis that were able to get RBIs. But besides this, only 1 run for the A's. Now, Game 7, a 1-run game for the final. And the A's took their first World Series in Oakland by a final score of 3-2. They won it in Cincinnati. Like I said, 3-2. It was a pretty good game because it's 1-1 tie, going into the 6th inning. The A's score 2 runs. Cincinnati makes it close. They get a 1 run in the 8th inning, making it 3-2. But the A's get the save from Raleigh Fingers, who, was great in this series. Catfish Hunter got the win. He was the starting pitcher in this game. Gene Tennis also had a really good game. He had 2 RBIs, and he also had a double in this game. For the Reds, Pete Rose did all he could. He had 2 hits, but the A's pitching just shut him down, and their hitting kind of outweighed the good pitching that Cincinnati had. Their pitching was pretty good as well, but I think the A's was better. Bert Campaneris was also really good in this game. Campy, we all know he's a great player back then, and this is the first of their 3 in a row. 1972. Like I said, I think Gene Tennis is definitely deserving of the World Series MVP. Dick Williams was the manager for the A's. He was pretty good. It was a good one to see. I mean, the Hall of Famers in this series, Reggie Jackson, he didn't actually play. That's why I didn't talk about him. He didn't play in this series. It's kind of a known fact. Dick Williams, Catfish Hunter, and Raleigh Fingers. But obviously, we all know the Reds. They had Joe Morgan, Tony Perez, Johnny Bench, and obviously we all know Pete Rose was in the Hall of Famer for obvious reasons, but I mean, he's deserving of it in terms of statistics. I don't know about character, but the A's had to overcome the Detroit Tigers in the ALCS, and they were a good team as well, and they, pushed it to 5 games. It was the ALCS and NLCS were only 5 games back then. That's going to do it. The A's win their first World Series in Oakland, 1972, and there'll be 2 more in the 70s, and then we'll have 1989, and then we'll be done. So, anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts. I'll see you guys later, and go A's.